Talk today at noon on KSJE 90.9 FM, Farmington. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, here to meet your urgent and emergent medical needs, whether they are COVID-19 related or not. Medical emergencies happen when you least expect them, whether it's a stroke, heart attack, illness, or injury. San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. Eleven minutes past 8 o'clock. It's Tuesday morning, September 29th. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Micklin. Thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the air here in San Juan County, New Mexico, 103.3 FM over the air in Durango, Colorado, and of course streaming everywhere from our website at ksje.com. Welcome also to our viewers who are watching this visual radio program and streaming live to the KSJE YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and this morning we are able to stream to the KSJE Twitter account. So we welcome everyone to the broadcast this morning. Coming up in the next few moments, my guest on the program today, Bloomfield School Superintendent Dr. Kim Mizel will be joining me from her office in Bloomfield, talking about the start of the fall semester, of course, in Bloomfield with their hybrid learning plan and how that has been going. We'll get an update in just the next few moments right here on KSJE. And then, of course, it is Tuesday, so later on this hour, I'll be checking in with Amber Francisco over at the Farmington Regional Animal Shelter. She'll be talking about some of the pets available for adoption this week, including Kaz, who is the dog you see on the screen right now. He is one of the pets available this week, so join us for that at 8:50 a.m. this morning on KSJE. Next hour, our classical music program, Roving with the Arts. Mick Hess will take over the airwaves, and he'll be playing music from Bach cantatas on Tuesdays. More of those coming your way today after the news at 9 a.m. right here on KSJE. And, of course, in addition to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, we also invite you to connect with us on Instagram if you're an Instagram person. Here's the weather forecast. Mostly sunny skies and milder temperatures, 75 for a high in Farmington today. Overnight, though, very cold, 37 for a low this evening with clear skies. Sunshine with 82 for a high tomorrow and on Thursday. 80 for a high on Friday, back down to 79 for Saturday and Sunday, but the temp staying right near 80 for the next week or so, and overnight lows near 40. Well, let me turn to my guest, who is here with us this morning from her office in Bloomfield, as I mentioned, through the miracle of Zoom. Dr. Kim Mizel is here. Good morning, Dr. Mizel. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us, and we can hear you loud and clear. We were wondering about that earlier, so thank you for reconnecting. And as I mentioned, school has started, I think, since we last spoke, and so talk to me a little bit about how things have been going for the last few weeks.
Well, we had to change our plans when we got the new checklist from the State Department, which required a lot more PPE filters, and so we were able to get everything ordered and received. And so we started yesterday morning with our elementary schools, K through 6, and pre-K actually as well.
Okay.
And so we're real happy to have the kids in school. It was really I went to the Central Primary in Navaani yesterday and looked in at the kids and stuff. And I went into one of the classrooms, a little second grader, and I said, "We missed you." And he said, "I missed you too." He doesn't even know me, but he was cute. Very
nice. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of that going around at schools these days. And so Bloomfield was no different from some of the other school districts in New Mexico that did have to kind of abide by some last-minute changes from the state in order to stay in compliance and to be able to reopen for face-to-face learning, as Bloomfield did on Monday, as you mentioned. Some of those things you mentioned, right? More PPE. I think there were some additional maybe filtering requirements for your HVAC systems and things like that. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yes. And the requirements were like 20 KN95 mask. If a teacher so chooses to wear one, she may have one.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to have 20 per teacher, and those are kind of difficult to find. We had to have face shields if they want them, so we had to get additional ones. We had them, but we had to get more, and then we had to have 2 cloth masks per student and 2 cloth masks per employee, plus disposable masks. So we were able to get those in. We had already bought cloth masks that we were giving to the students and the teachers, but we ordered additional masks. And then for serious situations where it would be like an isolation room, or where we're having to do like a feeding tube for a child, or even change a diaper, sometimes with some of our special need kids, we had to get like emergency room type gowns, hat, cap,
right,
booty, gloves, everything. So we had to have all that on staff, so prepared for everything. So we were able to get those. So we're up and going. We have our isolation room set up, and the kids are in school. They're starting to trickle back in. We had quite a few that had stated they wanted to stay virtual, but what we're finding is they're putting them on the bus, so they want them to come to school.
I gotcha. And so, and of course, you're not able to do 100%, right? You have to still have kind of maybe, is it 50% capacity in your classrooms when you do go back face to face?
Yes, we have 50% class roster students coming in on Monday and Tuesday, and then the other group will come in on Thursday and Friday. Wednesdays will be cleaning days throughout the district, so nobody will be in the building on Wednesdays.
Except for your cleaning folks.
Exactly.
Right. Gotcha. And so as you mentioned, you're seeing maybe a few more students that are coming back than what you thought, because maybe the virtual at home learning isn't working out quite as well as maybe parents had hoped that it would, or students had hoped that it would. Are you able to? I guess you're able to accommodate these extra students if they are showing up on the bus.
Yes, because the rosters will be the same, so we'll just and they know what days they're supposed to come.
I see.
So we should be fine.
Gotcha. Very good. And so that would lead me then to the next series of questions for our superintendents, and that is if you've got pre-K through 6 going well, and I know the state is working on maybe some guidelines for the older students, and have you heard anything more from them about that, maybe bringing more kids back face-to-face?
No, we haven't. I know they're working on it. I spoke with someone yesterday, and she said, yeah, we're trying to figure out what the protocols and procedures will be for the middle school and high school scenario. And so I know they're trying to address it. We really have all of the superintendents throughout the state really want to at least get our at-risk kids in that maybe don't have internet. You know, we've tried to accommodate them. We took packets out to the chapter houses. We will hand out packets at the school, but we're just not getting as many as we would like back. So we don't know who's learning and who's not at this point. And so it's a little more challenging than we anticipated. And so we're hoping to at least get those groups that we know that they don't have any type of access right now to come in. So that's kind of our push right now from the whole state. Everybody wants those kids to be in school. And we're just really worried about lost learning time, having a lot of kids that eventually will be illiterate. If we haven't gotten our little kindergarten through 3rd grade kids in and they're not learning how to read, you know, 18 years from now, or even earlier, probably
right.
16 years, we're going to have a large group of children or students that can't read, don't have the skills they need to be successful out in the world. I'm very worried about that. I actually expressed that to the Secretary of Education. I said, I'm actually more worried about illiteracy than I am COVID at this point, because you know, they've been with their family 6 months, but I don't think they have. We tried to recommend routines and set up your home with a little classroom area, but I don't think that's happening. I'm concerned, and we can't. Right now, we're looking for about 67 students. We don't know where they are.
So. That's a concern I understand, and I can hear the frustration and concern in your voice, Dr. Mizell. And that third grade K through 3 that you mentioned, I know that's been well documented, right? About kids that maybe have not been able to learn to read or don't have those reading skills by the third grade. That really does impact them for the rest of their lives. It seems to be that specific, right?
Yes. Yeah, all the research out there, you can find it everywhere, that if they're not reading fairly proficiency on grade level by third grade, they are going to struggle for the rest of their lives. But it's, I also am a believer in the resilience of a child, and many children, we have intervened and supported them, and they were able to get there, but it's very difficult sometimes because of our remoteness with some of our students, that we can't keep them after school. We have to figure out ways to do it during the day. So, the challenge gets more complicated, and then they can't access the content because they can't actually read it or process it at grade level. And that's for math and reading. So it's very concerning for me.
Sure. Well, I understand. And certainly, as we mentioned, it would impact them in the future. And that can do everything from not able to read a job application to being able to go on to even higher education, or even maybe graduate with their classmates as well. This is all kind of a snowball effect, is it not?
Yes, and it's going to play out fairly quickly. We'll know what our problems are and who we need to address. I already have a list of students that were from last year that we're getting ready to start doing after-school virtual interventions with them. But it's so much more challenging than people can imagine, trying to get them where they need to be.
Right. Right. And so, Dr. Mizell, I guess that would lead me to another line of questions, which would be maybe when we get maybe back to some normalcy, and maybe there's a vaccine and we can have more face-to-face interactions with our students and things like that. Do you think there'll be then maybe some more after-school reading help for some of these kids, or even math help or other help for kids that have maybe fallen a bit more behind than their colleagues during this time?
Yes, we will be offering that. We started that last year with the students after school. We did about an hour and a half after school every day, except for Wednesdays, and kept them after school. We had their parents pick them up so that we could help them. And we'll probably have to do more of that type of thing in the future. And so, but the problem is funding, obviously.
Sure.
And we have an actual grant that we've utilized, and we still have that grant for this year. So once we get back into the swing of things, we'll even hit it harder with those students, trying to support them. But right now we're going to have to try to attempt the virtual intervention.
Right. And that's what you're able to do right now, like this week, right? If you needed to.
We're not going to start just yet because we need to get the kids acclimated to the hybrid scenario.
Okay.
And I will be getting that probably started the 1st of October.
I see. Well, that's this week.
It's coming up.
That's in a couple of days. Good grief. That's true. But all right.
You know how it is. When you're living COVID, you forget what day it is.
Yes, ma'am. I understand. But I think I just want parents to know that maybe if their children are struggling, that the district does have plans to help them and to bring them up to speed, up to grade level with whatever they need, as they would during a normal face-to-face school year. And I think that's important for folks to understand.
Yes.
Very good.
And we need the parents' support with that. We can't do it without them. So
right.
And it's what we're finding is we have a really good online learning process that is working well for a lot of students, but there are those who are really struggling in this learning environment, and I think it's they're just not a good online learner. That I know that when it first started, I wasn't that great at online learning. I had to adapt and figure out how to keep a routine and schedule for myself, but some kids are really struggling, and if they're in like those advanced classes in the high school, I think it's extra hard for that group of students, and those are some of our brightest kids, but they need that teacher interaction, for example, in chemistry, some of our higher level classes that we have, AP classes, and they're just not able to get that through the virtual learning.
Right. Well, and again, as you pointed out too, if a student lives in a place that doesn't have internet connectivity, they are really at a disadvantage.
Right, and we put we've actually put a lot of hot spots out south of Bloomfield for families to access. We have some family partners basically they put it in they live in these communities and they have it in their house, and the people can come and utilize it from outside.
Their neighbors can come. That's great.
Right, so we partnered with both our chapter houses as well, Nageezi and Warfano Chapter House. And so they've been good partners in that sense. And from what we've heard, it is working. However, there's still some of those situations where we don't know what they're doing. They're not getting our packets. We've taken packets out to the chapter houses, and like 3 packets were picked up but not returned. So, and I mean, we have 700 kids out there.
Right.
It's very concerning to me.
Sure. And so I guess then the advice as to what you're able to do is just to keep trying to reach out to these families and these students to get them back into the routine, whatever the routine would be for their grade level.
Yes, we have a family liaison, and we're also working with Engage New Mexico, which is a kind of like a hotline for the state of New Mexico to reach out as well to those families. And then our family liaison, she's actually going out to the homes trying to find out what's going on with these kids, or like a welfare check in a way from the district level. And so she's been doing a lot of outreach. Many of them are scared of COVID and scared to send their kids to school. So I think, everybody's fears sometimes drive what they're doing. I want to assure people that we really have put every protocol and procedure in place to keep them safe, and a cleaning schedule, sanitation schedule, screening schedules with coming in. We have points of screening. They can't get on the bus if they have a fever. They can't get out of their car if they're being dropped off if they have a fever. They can't enter the school because they're screened before they even enter the school. And so we're trying to put mechanisms in place so that we don't allow them in school if they have any type of symptom that is a concern. So, and then if they actually get through all the screening and they get into the classroom and a teacher notices that they're coughing or sneezing or have a runny nose or whatever, they're sent immediately to an isolation room where their parents are called to come and pick them up. So pretty serious, and it's kind of hard on some little kids when, like the first day of school, they don't even get to go because the parents sent them, but we've tried to tell the parents, don't send them unless you,
right.
That if they have any type of symptom.
Sure.
We will discover it, basically.
Yeah, numerous times it sounds like too, but that's an important precaution, I guess, to have in place. My guest this morning is Dr. Kimberly Mizell. She is the superintendent of Bloomfield Schools, and we are talking, of course, about the return of face-to-face learning at Bloomfield Schools for grades pre-K through 6 on the schedule. And Dr. Mizell, I know you're talking about this certainly, but I have to imagine that this isn't just these students who aren't coming back to school or students that you've lost track of or aren't able to contact. It's not just a problem for the Bloomfield School District. This has got to be happening all over our state, all over our country.
Yeah, it is. In my superintendent's calls on Monday, I know that like Las Cruces has about 800, Hobbs has 600. So our enrollments are going down rapidly, and we're down about 175 right now. And it's because people are actually moving out of the state of New Mexico for various reasons, probably sure. Oil and gas industry or whatever, like their husbands get transferred or families get transferred. And so they're having to go find jobs. So that has been there's a large decline in the state of New Mexico with student population.
Right. But those are the students that you know about, right? It's these other ones that just kind of you don't have any idea where they've gone, if they've moved or not moved or just off the grid or what's going on. There is a good number of those too.
Yes, and my biggest fear is the social emotional scenario that some of these children might be under, where, I think of the young man who was in Espanola that just disappeared. And then they found him later, dead. And so I always worry, that's like my worst worry.
Of course.
That we haven't kept in contact and we haven't, they get lost in the system or terrible things are happening to them. And we're hearing the reports about the abuse and the neglect and what's going on out there. So we really want to make sure they're okay. That's the main thing. And then we want to try to make sure they're in school so they can learn. But we've done quite a few welfare checks and called even the police department to try to go check on them. We can't find them. And so our biggest concern, where are they?
That is scary.
They haven't disenrolled. They're not letting us know what's going on. So it's very worrisome.
Understood. I know you're right. Mental health is a big issue with all this going on, of course, for parents and children. Are your school counselors maybe helping with some of this? Or are they able to be accessed by your students who are coming back into the building or even virtually?
Yes, we've been providing services through the social workers as well virtually. So they've been reaching out to the families and reaching out to the students. We started a 5-to-1 scenario for kids that just need some contact or need to come in and get help on schoolwork. So we've tried to manage that kind of like the athletics programs where they can actually come in and get some extra help at the high school in particular. And then just trying to make sure that everyone knows they can ask for help.
Right.
We have homeless funds that we can provide. If they need something, we can help them with that. We can connect them with services in our county for support and help. I mean, I don't know how severe it is. I know that the unemployment monies have stopped, some of the money.
The additional benefits, you're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so, I think that they're probably struggling at this point, financially. So that would be another concern. Right.
Very true. I want to ask you too a bit about kind of funding and maybe what's next. Again, if you're hearing anything from the Public Education Department as we get ready the legislature will be meeting, of course, early next year. And I know school districts are probably finding you have maybe a lot more money than you need, maybe in one bucket, but you have a lack of funds that you need in another bucket. Is that kind of what it's looking like this year, or are things so up in the air it's hard to say?
No, they've cut our budgets. We got a $1.6 million cut in Bloomfield, and it's happening all over the state.
And that is based on just
the student, it's the SEG and the adjustment that they made with a special session.
I see.
They had to cut a ton of stuff. They took portions of our CARES Act money back, and they basically said, you figure it out with your SEG. So,
and that's that formula based on enrollment, isn't that roughly what an SEG is?
Yeah, equalization formula.
Thank you.
So what they did is, like, for example, we had received about $750,000 in CARES Act money. Well, they took back close to $400,000. So and we had already spent ours getting the laptops, getting the PPE, making sure the sanitation stuff, everything that I think we're at about $1 million that we have spent on COVID. So just get an idea for the communities
that's in Bloomfield, $1 million.
In Bloomfield. It's very expensive. And, we started ordering and getting prepared 6 months ago. And then in mid-July, they said they're going to reduce our CARES Act funds. So that is very, very frustrating. And then $1.6 million cut in your budget. caused great concern. We've already adjusted what we could. We have a freeze on hiring. So it's going to become very challenging. So at the state level, we're pushing for the state to hold us harmless with our student enrollment, because everything's based on how many students you have.
Right.
Well, all of us have the reduction in students, and for example, Las Cruces is $15 million reduced.
Wow.
So I mean, it's a scary situation, and I know that the Superintendent's Association has been testifying with the LESC, Legislative Education Study Committee.
Thank you.
And the Legislative Finance Committee. They're meeting with them to let them know that if they don't take these things into consideration, it's going to be very challenging for many districts to maintain the staffs that they have. So we're hopeful that they're listening. Many of us are the largest employers in our towns, and the impact is going to be very adversely impact the towns that we're located in if we actually are having to reduce our staff.
Sure. Understood. Well, and that is something, again, that's not just a Bloomfield schools issue, but an issue facing all the districts in our state, it sounds like. And without real numbers and not knowing which students are coming back and what's going on with enrollments and things like that, that's kind of where you are, right? Not being able to kind of have a good count, I guess.
Yes. This is, in my 23 years of being in education, is probably the most stressful experience I've ever had. And, I just pray to be calm and move on as best I can. But the stress level is really something else, I guess I would say. And I know that, like even San Juan College, they're experiencing similar stuff. And I've been talking with other colleagues and superintendents, and they're making changes and reorganizing to get ready for some of the stuff that we're going to have to face. So, $1.6 million isn't a lot to of the larger districts, but it's a lot to Bloomfield.
Sure.
And if you add in loss of students, it's more like 2.6 million. And so you can just do the numbers, and you know what's going to have to happen. And so I'm hoping that we'll do as much preventive stuff as we can from the state level.
Right. Very good. Well, and again, you had told us earlier that, of course, Bloomfield invested a lot in technology with laptops and to make those available to your students because you saw this coming. This was 6 months ago, and so that was some expenditures you made at the beginning of all this, and to give your students who hadn't had access to laptops before outside of the school buildings this technology that they could then have and use from home. That was a major, and those hotspots that you mentioned earlier too, that was a major expense, I would think.
Yes, technology is expensive. We pushed out in Mesa Alto's parking lot, the high school, and Blanco Elementary, parents can access internet out there as well in the parking lots if they, need that internet access during the day. I know it's not the best situation, have to go sit in your car to do your schoolwork, but it's better than nothing. So I think some people are utilizing that and taking advantage of it. Yes, everything's been very expensive. And for example, the MERV 13 filters, for example, that we are supposed to have in our filtration system.
Right.
We put in asked for a quote, and it was $53,000 for our district. That doesn't include what we've already spent on COVID. Okay, so it's something that we haven't planned for, and now that we have to do it. We put the order in there 90 days out before we would actually maybe get them. It's very difficult to find them. So the struggle is very real.
Yes. Well, it's you and every other district looking for these things, right? And that's the issue, I guess. And I guess I would describe those as maybe similar to maybe a furnace filter that maybe we would put in our homes, but certainly on a much larger scale. And these are a lot more, I guess, solid to kind of weed out some of the other particles and things. That was the extra mandate, I guess, that came from the public education department to buy these more heavy duty, higher grade filters, right?
Yes, that's the whole purpose of it. We had totally replaced all of our filters in the district probably about 3 weeks ago.
With the other ones.
Yeah,
And now you had to replace it with the new ones.
right.
Got it. I hear you.
Now you feel my pain.
Yes, ma'am. I do. And so you're getting a lot of support on our Facebook page, Dr. Mizel, for the job that you are doing and your colleagues, the other superintendents. There's a question about if the governor is not holding the district harmless, but it's really the legislature at the moment, not the governor, right? Is that your understanding?
That's correct. It has to be a legislative decision.
Got it. And that will be decided, I guess, in 2021 when the legislature meets in Santa Fe. And then the
Right.
governor could either sign or not sign whatever bills they send over to her.
Yes.
So, but that's kind of what's going on. Well, Dr. Kim Mizel, we are out of time this morning, as always happens to us when we get talking about education. We could talk all morning, I know, but you have a lot of other things on your plate today. And so I will thank you for your time, and we'll talk again next month.
All right. Thank you, Scott, and you have a good day.
All right. You two hang in there, and thank you for talking with me this morning. I appreciate it very much.
Mm-hmm.
That's Dr. Kim Mizel. Bye-bye now. The Superintendent of Schools with the Bloomfield School District. My guest here on KSJE. And I'll be back with more, everyone, in just a moment. The time is coming up on 8:41. San Juan County, we need you. This is Scott Micklin. As a longtime resident and advocate for our community, it's so important to fill out the 2020 census. So all of us here in San Juan County can be counted, because we do count. Take 10 minutes and fill it out today, and tell your neighbor too, so we can get our fair share of funding for our health, our education, and things as simple as our roads and bridges. As the deadline is nearing, make sure you get counted and benefit our wonderful San Juan County. Complete the census when you receive your invitation